Going live. There we go. Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. For some reason, before you click the go live button, it says that you're not live for a bit. So, but even though it'll start recording you before you actually go live. Very strange. I've noticed it on all of the old streams that when you do a stream, it'll start slightly before you tell it to. Very strange. I don't know how to fix it. Maybe YouTube can help me with something there. But yeah, we got a few bits of news and leaks and rumours and all that sort of stuff to come today. So thank you all for coming along. Let's see who's in the chat. We got Adzinko, Hoovian10, Dan23, and Jean-Luc, my good friend. Is it friend the right word? Would you say friend's the right word, Jean-Luc? No, I'm just kidding, Jean-Luc. We love Jean-Luc on this channel. We love... Big up to the Universals, I guess. I'll just wait for a couple of you to get in here. Thank you, Jean-Luc. Oh, you're too kind, honestly. Oh, I don't deserve this adulation. Please, calm yourself. No. If you haven't already, please like the stream before we get started. We've got a lot to go over today. So, yeah. Get excited, I guess. We've got many things to talk about. Hello to Henry Steffens as well. How you doing, my man? Hope you're all doing well. It's been a nice day last couple of days. In fact, it's probably dissipated now, but I did have ice in this at one point because it was that nice. I can't remember the last time I had ice in a drink, so that's quite a nice revelation, I suppose. Not revelation. What? Like a nice change of pace to have ice in a drink. It was very nice. We don't get much nice weather over here in good old Wales, as you all know, so it's nice to get some today and for the last few days. But yeah, we got a lot of good. When I'm at the waiting screen, you know, I have to turn off the video and on again to get it to come on. It doesn't automatically come on. Yeah, I've had that with live streams as well, where I have to refresh it before I can actually watch it. It's a very bizarre thing, and I'm not quite sure why exactly it works like that. Live streams are very I enjoy doing live streams. I enjoy the interactive element of live streams, but I do find that they can be occasionally very buggy, and they don't exactly give you much of a reason as to why they are. Hello, Faulty TARDIS. How are you? Leaky times. Yes, it is. Should we get into it? Right. Let's go. Don't want Jodie to go. I get what you mean. It's I can talk a bit more about that probably because obviously I did a video on that yesterday, but I might cover the Cult Box article as well, because the article I covered was the actual Mirror one. I didn't cover what Cult Box had to say on the matter, and I do normally talk about what Cult Box has to say because they're usually pretty on the money. But with that said, let's get into all of the news for Doctor Who at the minute. Like news / rumours / you get the drill, you know what I mean. Make sure to like the stream as always, and if you want a super chat, you can, it's there. But first item on the list, River Song joins Operation Time Fracture. Alex Kingston has recorded a cameo appearance for Doctor Who Time Fracture. Get your tickets. What I wonder about this, and I'm wondering if anyone can tell me, how do they, how do they, add people in after it's already started? Is it a case of, you know, it expands throughout the year and they're going to add more cameos? Because if you can only afford to go once, and that's at the start of Doctor Who Time Fracture, surely, you know, from an outside perspective, it would be better to wait so you can see more of the cameos. I just don't know how they still record things while it's still going on. If anyone can tell me that, then I'd be interested to know, because obviously I've heard that the story can go in multiple directions, so I'd be interested to see if that factors into what cameos you get. I assume it does, with how many they recorded. I doubt that they're going to get all of the cameos that they've recorded, as well as live performances in one good run through, I guess, or one experience. I don't really know how it works, but I'll be interested, because I will go eventually. It's just a matter of A, the funding, and B, trying to get there. So, but yeah, cool that they're getting Alex Kingston back. Obviously, I think she's a very popular character. I am not the biggest River Song fan, but, you know, she is one of the more, I guess, iconic New Who characters, so it makes sense for her to be included here. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about Time Fracture. That's our first item of the day. Which previous writer do you think could write Jodie better? Pre-Chibnall era writers? Probably RTD, honestly, because if you watch I think it's Death of the Doctor, the Sarah Jane Adventures episode, where he writes 11. He writes 11 really well, I feel, and obviously there's comparisons to be made between 11 and 13. There's comparisons you can make between 10 and 13 as well, but I definitely think they were trying to go for the more wacky alien personality, and with the case of, obviously, RTD, I think, is just very multifaceted, and he can balance tones very well. He can sort of do the light and comedic stuff, but he can also be quite serious. So yeah, I'm just going to say him. Very basic choice. Failing that, though, if they wanted to do basically the Cartmel master plan, I guess Andrew Cartmel would have been a good shout. If you're talking about just showrunners, though, I would say RTD. It's probably Jack's gone, so they need a replacement. That could very well be the case. And I guess if she was replacing Jack, I'm not saying that she is, but I suppose she is the next, like, logical equivalent, I guess, because she time travels, and she's got multiple lives, she can live for a long time. You know, they share a lot of the same attributes in terms of, I guess, skill sets, so I guess they do make sense. Yeah, he does write 11 well. I think he's very good at, like, writing multiple different types of characters, so I would say RTD. It looks cool. It looks like one of these choose your own adventure books. You turn a different page depending on what you choose. That could very well be the case. I'm very interested to try it when I eventually do. I've heard it has different storylines and it plays out like choose your own adventure style thing. Okay, fair enough. That makes a lot more sense. So I get a bit confused about when they add new people, and I'm like, wait, how can they add new people if it's already out? But that makes sense. Where is Time Fracture? I believe it's in London, right? I believe that's where it is. So it's not that far away, like, I mean, for me it's far away, but for some of you who, like, live in England, I know a lot of you do, it might not be as far away. I know that England's not just one place, it's not just London, but I know there's a few of you who live nearer to London than I do anyway. Yeah, alright, let's get into the leaks and the rumours and all that, shall we? What the main thing about this stream is dedicated towards. Can we get some hype in the chat for the leaks? Just spam the word leak, there's 35 of you, just spam the word leak in my chat. I want to see it. Also, like the stream as well. That would be very much appreciated. Sarah Dollard is good, to be fair. I wouldn't mind seeing her write 13. Honestly, I think Maxine Alderton does a pretty good job. Out of the current writing slate, I feel like that episode for me is like the one episode where Jodie's Doctor's potential is really actualized, because she does have those darker elements that I missed in previous episodes of Jodie's Doctor. So yeah, I would say out of the current writing flock, I'd say Maxine Alderton does the best job. Yes, we're already getting leaks. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. That's amazing. Just people spamming the word leak. I said on Twitter the other day, I want to become so synonymous with the word leak that, like, no one can, like, fix their plumbing or buy a leek as in the vegetable without getting some sort of PTSD. That's what I want. And I hope that one day I'll achieve it. All right. Let's get into the first one, shall we? Okay, so obviously, with all of these, I'm not saying that any of it's true. This is just things that I find around the internet, I find interesting, or I'm sent that I find interesting. Just thought I'd get that out of the way. I'm not claiming to have sources or anything. I just enjoy discussing these and discussing how likely or not likely they could or couldn't be. It's just a bit of fun. Don't take it too seriously, and don't assume that I'm the devil or a saint for reporting on these things. Alright, good. Let's go. Okay, so just wanted to share some things I've been told about the Epco series. Take as you will. Will obviously be spoiler tagged. Okay, here we go. This is Gallifrey based. I don't use Gallifrey based often because I think I've said in a previous live stream that I find the layout of chat forums to be a bit like cumbersome. I just don't like the layout of a lot of chat forums. I much prefer like Twitter or Reddit in that regard. Obviously Twitter is a hellscape and Reddit isn't much better, but at least I like their layouts better. But getting into it, the Doctor's developed an anxiety of sorts over not spending enough time with her friends, resulting in her being prompted by Dan, something he learnt whilst coping with the loss of his daughter, is that spending some time to yourself every now and again can make the world a difference. Alright, so there's immediately quite a bit of information there, just in that one sentence. So first of all, we know that Dan has a daughter, which I'm conflicted on, because if you remember, we know that John Bishop's parents are still very much in the frame, and I'm not saying, obviously, you can't have parents and have children, but what I am saying is the impression I got is that they were still very involved in his life, kind of like he was sort of you know, an older guy who hadn't moved out of home yet, maybe a bit more of a sheltered guy, so him having a daughter runs in counter to what I thought the character was going to be, but I could be completely wrong on that. And he very well could have a daughter. I believe it was speculated though that the person he was seen with on the museum filming like a few months back, that was his girlfriend, not his daughter. It could still be his daughter. So yeah, I mean, it's either it's going to be one of the two. So that's interesting. I also like the idea of the Doctor spending more time to themselves. I think that's one thing that I really wanted to see in series 11 and 12 was them separating, because so often they're just stuck together the whole time and there's no real time to develop them separately, and when they do go off separately, it feels like when they do have character moments they feel very forced in, and then the plot reactivates after that, whereas I think I want it to feel a bit more natural, you know. And I think as much as I'd like a Doctor Light story in this series, because I do feel like we need that to develop Dan, which is what the Weeping Angel plot, which I covered in one of my previous videos, suggested. I do feel like a Doctor-centric episode would be really good as well, considering as well, this may well be Jodie Whittaker's last full series. We don't know 100%, but it's looking more and more, as often as it is reported, that is the case. But let's carry on. She's been trying to decrypt the footage from the remains of the Matrix, and for a while, and finally manages to make a major breakthrough, which leads to her coming face to face with Tecteun, spelled incorrectly, from the series 12 finale, who pleads with the Doctor for help. She wants her to go back and change what happened to save the timeless child. Okay, so once again, the idea of her trying to decrypt what's in the Matrix, to me that makes a lot of sense, because kind of similarly to in Series 8, when the Doctor finds out in Day of the Doctor that Gallifrey still exists somewhere, he spends some time trying to find where it is, and obviously Missy gives him some coordinates that turn out to be false. So I like to think that that's similar to what's happening here, where she's seen part of the picture but now wants to find the rest. That makes total sense. The idea of Tecteun coming back, again, I think that could definitely happen. The thing that I do wonder about, though, is the idea of going back to save the timeless child. It is fitting with the Doctor's character to change time events, but simultaneously the Doctor is also against changing events. The Doctor, he or she, is kind of a massive contradiction in that regard, I feel, where sometimes they are very against changing history in any way. You can't change history, not one line, the famous line from, I believe it's the Aztecs from the first Doctor, but then other times the Doctor's like, we can change this, you know, so it'd be interesting to see whether that actually did have any consequences, and perhaps actually changing the destiny of the timeless child might end up making the future even worse as a result, kind of like some butterfly effect style stuff. But carrying on, John Bishop's character Dan is an unknowing sleeper agent collecting information from the Division, so that they could keep an eye on the Doctor. What better way to keep surveillance than by using surveillance that has no idea they're even surveillance in the first place? Surveillance that has no idea their whole life has been a lie. So, I've heard a few rumours about John Bishop being a potential villain. I even heard it tossed about that he's another incarnation of the Master. And personally, if he is only going to stick around for 8 episodes, it does make total sense. Because, realistically, he's going to have a very short run, because I don't see John Bishop staying on beyond Series 13. I don't see it happening. So if he is only in those 8 episodes, it's going to be a very short run for him. So what better way to explain that than to say that halfway through the series, or maybe like in the finale, they find out, oh damn, this guy was an agent all along without even realising. And we've got to try and, well, you got to get rid of him for a start. But like the fact that he himself wouldn't know that would make the twist even more impactful, I feel. And actually it seems like a very Chibnall style twist to do, because think back to Series 12, Jo Martin, a seemingly incidental character that had no idea about her own past, turns out to be the Doctor. There's that theme of, you know, forgetting who you were sort of pervading this series as well. And I do think that we will get one major twist at least in Series 13, because Chibnall just seemed to like doing it in Series 12. You know, we had multiple. So, yeah, I think that could be a realistic twist. Am I saying it'll happen? No. I do think it'll be a weird choice, though, to have a big comedy actor turn out to be a sleeper agent the entire time, but then equally, the beauty of him being a sleeper agent would be that he could still act all comedic on screen, but then act very, like obviously turn out to have much more nefarious deeds, so he wouldn't have to go full evil mode, I suppose. And the final part of this is that the Doctor and Tecteun arrive on Gallifrey in the past, where we discover that this has been employed by the Division to get rid of her and her friends. They know the truth about the Time Lords, and that's unacceptable. The glory of Gallifrey must be preserved at all costs, and they're willing to go to any length to achieve it. Before 13 can do anything to stop her, Tecteun pushes her off a cliff and steals her TARDIS, landing on prehistoric Gallifrey. Does that mean Tecteun pushes the Doctor? Because, I guess there would be a nice cyclical element to that, in the sense that, the time of child's life started when she was pushed off a cliff and they discovered regeneration. So, Tecteun then pushing 13 off a cliff, there would be that nice sort of, narrative through line there, where it starts with someone getting pushed and it ends with someone getting pushed. But I don't really see how that would factor in to, the rest of the narrative. Would that cause her to regenerate? Would that be what causes that? Would that be a cliffhanger? Would that lead into a special? I don't know, that seems... I don't know how that could be resolved, really, but then again, I know that with a lot of, resolutions in Doctor Who, they can just pull anything out of anywhere. But yeah, so I like the idea of Gallifrey trying to preserve their image. I think that makes a lot of sense, for the Time Lords to try and preserve their stature and their hierarchical structure and their position in the universe, essentially. That makes total sense. I just don't know whether I buy the idea of Tecteun pushing 13 off a cliff, and that being the finale. I'm not sure I buy that, but it could happen, and it could be the end of, part 1 of a finale, because we don't know that this is the whole narrative of Series 13. For all we know, again, it could just be nothing, but it is an interesting piece to talk about. It's certainly different from a lot of the Reddit stuff we've covered previously. I want to know what you guys think, though. What do you guys think about this? Oh god, have I got a super chat? Oh, Channel Pep, thank you for the £2. I hear Weezer are doing the soundtrack for Series 13. Damn, that sounds amazing. I love how, by the way, I gave you £2. No, it was £5 last live stream, and you've given me £2. So now I'm still £3 down, but at least it's slightly less. No, I'm just kidding. Love your Channel Pep. Tell Tom to do the overtime for me. Very much appreciate it. So yeah, what do you guys think of that one? I wanna know your guys' thoughts on this. Honestly, the sooner Journey leaves, the sooner Big Finish gets the rights. Yeah, I think Big Finish could do some stuff with Jodie. It's always what happens with Doctors that don't get initially well received. They'll go over to Big Finish and they'll get a massive overhaul, and they'll be seen as one of the best Doctors and a huge missed opportunity. And maybe that could happen with Jodie, I don't know. I hope it does. So is Series 14, sorry, in 2023 or 2024? We don't know yet. So I'd assume that, because they're saying that, yeah, mate, £2 change for your £3 purchase, yeah. So I assume that, if there's 2 specials in 2022, then... I don't know whether they'd have a full series in 2022. I hope that we get more than just 2 episodes in 2022, because otherwise 2022 is going to drag. It's already felt like 2021 was dragging because we had to deal with, obviously, the last thing we had was Revolution, and that was at the very start of the year. So I think, yeah, I hope that there's more in 2022. Regarding Series 14... there's some people saying that there's no plans for Series 14 yet. But, I hope there is, and I hope that's not the case, because if there's no plans, that's, not something that I'm overly keen on, obviously. In regards to the 60th, I think a lot of people have raised some interesting points about that, in the case of, if Jodie does end up leaving next year, it kind of makes sense for her to just stay on and do the 60th at that point. Even though, personally for me, I'm sort of ready for something new. And that's not against anyone who enjoys it. It's just for me personally, I'm at a point now where I want a new chapter in Doctor Who, I suppose, and I feel like, but then again, I don't know. I don't know whether Jodie regenerating in the 60th would be a good idea. I'm sort of torn. Part of me thinks it would be a great way for the Doctor to quite literally take their place among their predecessors. This new Doctor, having them show up in the 60th, it'd be a great way to introduce them. I mean, I guess we've technically had it before because Capaldi shows up for a frame in Day of the Doctor, but then part of me is also like, would that overshadow the rest of the event if we have the new Doctor revealed in the 60th? I don't know. I'm a bit torn on that idea. What if Dan is the Rani? Hey, I mean, never say never, you know what I mean? But we've got a lot more rumours to go through, but I just thought I'd get you my thoughts on that one. From what I've seen, John Bishop doesn't have acting instincts. Have the acting instincts, range, or experience to play a complicated part. Fair enough, but then equally, we've got to think, no one thought that, Bradley Walsh was going to be that good, and he ended up probably being the heart of the show for, the last 2 series. He was the one who I felt as the most emotionally connected to, anyway. So, I think we as a fan base, we always underestimate when the show gets comedy actors on board. So I'm gonna say, I think it'd be worth giving him a chance before we say that. Because, oh my god, we're on 69 viewers. Everyone, it's a meme. Oh, we're back up to 71. I said, I'm disappointed. No, I think we just need to give him a chance. I'm not saying he'll be great. He might be terrible. But, we underestimated Bradley Walsh, and he turned out to be the best part of this, one of the best parts of this era so far. So I feel like we should give John Bishop the same opportunity, I think. But let's get into the next thing. Now, this is, again, just someone on Twitter, but, they were sort of doing this in response to what was released yesterday in regards to Doctor Who, about the 2022 specials and Jodie's regeneration. So obviously this is coming from EDTV. This is literally just someone on Twitter. I'm not saying this is just someone, and I'm not saying that he's my source or anything. I want to make it clear when I talk about these. I just find these interesting to talk about. Sorry, got distracted. So there are 3 major Doctor Who announcements planned in the next 4 weeks. I'm also sitting on embargoed information not related to Series 13. Alright, so with this, obviously, what I find most interesting about this is that 4 weeks would take us up to the Euro final. Now, the Euro final is noteworthy because Doctor Who tends to like to announce things as major sporting events. They announced Jodie at Wimbledon, and I believe they announced Bill at the Euros as well, or something like that. And especially for not final matches, because those are the ones that have big audience numbers and stuff like that. And that would be on the 11th of July. So here's my prediction, wild prediction. Here's my prediction. I think we'll either get confirmation that Jodie's leaving on the 11th of July, or we'll get a teaser for Series 13 on the 11th of July. I feel like we'll get something on the 11th of July, which I hope we do, because it's the day before my birthday, and it'll act as an indirect birthday present to me, because I'll have something to talk about on this channel. But yeah, I hope that is the case. I hope we do get something, but that is my prediction. I hope everyone expects to not get attached to Dan. He'll only be in the series, maybe a cameo in Jodie's final story. I mean, that's the thing, though. People can have short runs on Doctor Who and get extremely attached. You think about it, most Russell companions only had 1 series for them to make an impact. So, they had a Series 11 trailer during the World Cup final in 2018. Yeah, that's true, and I think a very similar thing could happen here, where we'll get a Series 13 teaser or trailer at the Euro final. I think that could happen. They seem to like to do it at sporting events. I don't know how big the crossover between Doctor Who fans and sports is. Not to say that you can't be a Doctor Who fan and enjoy sport, but obviously those 2 demographics historically are quite different. But I mean, then again, it's not just about attracting Doctor Who fans, I suppose. It's about attracting a general audience. And in the case of sporting events, they normally attract millions upon millions of viewers. They're one of the few things that I think television networks can still rely on to do decently well. But even then, not, they are slowly on the decline, but they still pull in massive numbers normally. So I think that's why they like to announce things regarding other shows at sporting events, because it just makes complete sense for them to do so. But yeah, let's get into the actual second part of this. So to be clear, 6 episodes and 2 specials. So this is in direct relation to the article that came out yesterday saying that rather than Series 13 being 8 whole episodes, it'll be 6 episodes and then 2 specials that will air in 2022, which means that we'll only be getting 6 episodes this year if that is true, which, I gotta be honest, 8 episodes already felt like a small amount, but it being 6 this year makes it feel even shorter. Like, I know that one of them will probably be New Year's, and that will probably be the Dalek special that's been filming right now, so it won't be that long of a gap, but I do just feel like 6 episodes and then 2 episodes in 2022, it's gonna feel very, like, spaced out and sparse, if that is the case, but let's read the rest of this. One on New Year's Day, and the other at time to be decided in 2022. Also, for the first time ever, as it stands, there are no plans for Series 14, so the Chibs era ends with no Doctor, no plans, no new season, and no new studio. That's a bit of a scary thought, having no plans. Obviously, I'm not saying that's true, but that's just something that the EDTV here has pointed out. Obviously, take that with a grain of salt, but I think the idea of 8 episodes being spanned across 2 years is an idea I'm not overly fond of. That's why Doctor Who gets no viewers. There's no crossover. Doctor Who commonly advertised during sporting events. Doctor Who fans might as well start advertising during sex. Oh god, I don't even know whether I'm allowed to say that, but it is true. Like, I do wonder how big the crossover is between people who like sport and people who like Doctor Who. Yeah, I'm a sports fan. That's fair enough. I'm sure there are some, but you get what I mean. Like, the stereotypes aren't normally people who like sports and Doctor Who and aren't normally the same demographics, I suppose. But, I guess it's just for, like, general casual audiences, because I feel like what the Chibnall era, at least initially, intended to do was get your dad watching Doctor Who again, and going like, oh, I watched that last night, it was alright, it had Bradley Walsh in it from The Chase, it was, I think that's what they wanted, but then, like, equally, they kind of went in the complete opposite direction with Series 12, being like, hey guys, remember the Morbius Doctors? Do you remember Cybermen? And what else did they even have in that series? The Master? Like, it's just in, like, so many different directions. So, I don't really know what their goal is. It'll be interesting to see. I think Series 13, I've said this a couple times, it'll be like the in-between point between Series... it'll be in the in-between point between Series 11 and 12, where it won't have as much lore stuff as Series 12 did, but I don't think it'll be completely villainless like Series 11. When I say villainless, I mean as in classic villains. As a Doctor Who fan, I can clarify, I have not exercised ever. Neither have I, although I don't think you'd have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that was the case, in my case. How do you know my dad perfectly bred that? Thank you very much. I just sort of did a weird accent. I don't know why. From 12 episodes of the series plus a Christmas special to now 6 and 2 specials. The thing is, like, the specials these days, they're not even like the major ratings boost that they once were. Like, back in the day, if a series wasn't doing so well, they'd normally use a special as a means to get the ratings back up. But they don't normally increase that much when specials do happen. So that's an interesting thing in itself. Would honestly really rate a Romana return, but I reckon it'd feel similar to Jack's return if done in the Chibnall era, just name recognition to get the ratings up. Yeah, you could be right. You could be right. I've got to talk about that next. So let's get into the big rumour, shall we? Big excitingness. Wow. Tharries, the new Rassilon was revealed in Time Fracture, and he's not female. I feel like there's a bit of a juxtaposition in your comment there. I thought there was... I heard somewhere that there was a female Rassilon in Time Fracture, but I don't know where that was. I'm trying to... Again, as I've said before, I'm trying to keep away from Time Fracture spoilers. I don't know whether Time Fracture's that linked to the show. It's got a lot of cameos from the show, so I'd assume so. Meh, some expanded media, Big Finish, already made mention of a female Rassilon. I'm not really that hyped, honestly. Yeah, fair enough. Let's actually get into what this is just someone who sent me something on Twitter. This was the same person who sent me the stuff about the Weeping Angel story a few days back. So obviously, again, could be complete bollocks. But, let's just have a read of it. And you guys can tell me what you think. Because I wasn't sure whether to cover this in a video or cover it in a stream. I decided to do it in a stream because, oh yeah, Pup, thank you. Do ask Dom about time fracture. Because I know that it's been confusing me because I know that there's like multiple different people who've been added, but apparently there could be different endings. So it'd be interesting to, I mean, to anyone who could do it, I'd assume that the best way to do it would be to go multiple times to see all the different endings, like if you could afford to. But I don't know how many people can afford to go multiple times, but would love to go to time fracture, but I know for a fact I'd be going alone. Aw, George, mate. Oh, that's sad. I can't say that I'd be able to go with you because obviously it is quite far away from me. I will go at some point. You know, it's not just as easy as it was in the day where I could just hop in the car and go to like the Doctor Experience in Cardiff, which was like around the corner. No, this is back in like London now, so I've got to go all the way, you know, to like the other capital in order to be able to go. I will do it, but it'll be probably a bit of time before I can do it. But let's actually get into what I was sent, because I think that's the big rumour that I, you know, have seen anyway. Obviously, the Gallifrey-based one was fairly big as well. Okay, so according to my friend, Rassilon is returning. Obviously, again, when people say, according to my friend, you've got to take it with a grain, like a massive grain of salt. It's probably false. A lot of this probably is, because it can't all be right, realistically. But I do find them just fascinating to talk about, really do. Because if they are false and they are fan creations, it like enhances the idea of, you know, fan creativity or in a way, and like, oh, that's actually quite a good idea that I could see happening, but it was made by a fan. That's quite cool. But let's actually get into this. Okay, so according to my friend, Rassilon is returning in the upcoming series, in the upcoming Timeless Child stories, but as a female character. Also new and old Time Lords in this upcoming series. Possibly Romana or the Rani, but most likely the Time Lords we saw in the Moffat era. So I guess that means the General. I guess, because we didn't really see many other Time Lords in the Moffat era. I mean, because the Sisterhood of Khan aren't Time Lords, so I guess that's what he means by Time Lords in the Moffat era, because that's the only real one of note would be the General. I mean, RTD did bring back the Master from the Classic era, so them two can be a possibility. I mean, yeah, he did bring back the Master, but I feel like the Master has a lot more name recognition than, say, for example, the Rani. I feel like the Rani is basically just female Master, essentially, and we already have that in the form of Missy now. So I do kind of feel like all the people saying, bring back the Rani, I'm like, what do you want them to do that hasn't already been done? You know what I mean? Like, what could you realistically do that hasn't already... I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, I just don't really see the difference between her and the Master anymore. Like, they're pretty much interchangeable in my head. Also, I'm pretty sure they'd be regenerated if they do return, which makes sense. You know, with each showrunner, they like to have new incarnations of the classic enemies, so that makes sense. Next one is Bradley Walsh. Is that Bradley Walsh and Tosin Cole will return, but there's a catch. When Jodie is regenerating in the sky, this is why I put Sky Regeneration in the title of this stream, and about to change into Jo Martin, she imagines talking to them as she falls. Mandip could also be in this scene. So, I asked them about this later, but I'll get into it. So I'm pretty sure the Doctor loses her memories since she is found unconscious, and because my friend said that the Master is the Timeless Child, so we will see, I'm just assuming he didn't specify. So she loses her memories, but then the Master's the Timeless Child. I'm not sure how those two correlate exactly. I know that she'll probably, like, if she's in the sky, assumingly she'll hit the ground, and that's what makes her lose her memory. But then again, I feel like, I don't know how that would work. But also, Yaz will have a focus on her story arc. That'll be great. Yeah, it'll be. I mean, the thing is though with Yaz, they say every series, this one will get a focus on Yaz. Series 12 said there's going to be the big series for Yaz, and now people are saying Series 13 will be the big series for Yaz. I feel like at this point we just got to give up. You know what I mean? Like, because Series 12 didn't really do a lot with Yaz. They had the one episode with Can You Hear Me, but I don't really see that as development as much as I do adding a thing that was never really expanded upon. So yeah, like, they didn't really focus on Yaz that much in Series 12. I'm assuming that Mandip will be in the regeneration scene because she could be leaving, but my friend never mentioned her, so I don't know. We will see. If she is leaving, it makes sense. I've got one more if that's okay. And obviously I said yes, but you won't see because I've screenshotted these, but just assume that I did. After the Dalek special, there will be an episode in the Doctor's head. 2 Doctors will be present. That'll be it. Basically, it'll be in the Doctor's consciousness. So, the idea of 2 Doctors persists in this rumour, but not the split regeneration thing, which has been posited by a few different people. Honestly, the split regeneration idea, I actually quite like. It's something different. It's not, obviously, the ideal thing, but I do think it would be interesting to have a few episodes with multiple Doctors. Oh snap, we're doing a cross between 4 and 5's regen. Essentially, yeah, I think that's what they're trying to say here. And then when I asked about the regeneration in the sky comment, he said she's regenerating in the sky, she's going to jump off a Dalek ship, so she's very badly injured. So the main thing I could point to as a comparison to that would be the End of Time Part 2, where... Is it Part 2? Yeah. Where the Doctor jumps out of a ship and lands in that mansion and takes on Rassilon and the Master. That's the main sort of, inspiration I could see here. It'd be nice for, Jodie to get an epic moment where she jumps out of the ship. I guess that would be cool. And I guess that it would make sense for her to be badly injured after that. Although I do find it weird how, the 4th Doctor, a fall killed him, but now the 10th Doctor can fall and survive. But I guess that's just another example of Doctor Who's continuity not making any sense. But then there's this one, which is also, I don't know where the TARDIS is. I'm thinking it's going to be a Woman Who Fell to Earth sequel. The regeneration actually starts in the sky. So it'll be unique. I love how 3 Chibnall characters end up falling and dying, while one actually died, and a supposedly upcoming one. And that's all he gave me. So, interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. It's one of those, it's so hard to determine what could be true and what could be false, because even though basically everything that we've discussed today is all completely different, all of them sound almost completely plausible. Davis did come up with the idea of a split regeneration, yeah. He was the one who initially posited it in his What I Do With Who video, and it'd be interesting to see that actually adopted by the show. I mean, it's not that far away when you think about it from a Meta Crisis, for example. It's really not that far away. So I could see them doing something like that. So she starts by falling and ends by falling. Essentially, yeah. I think the idea is that she ends the way she began. Kind of, I guess, in a somewhat similar way to... I actually don't know what the best comparison point would be. I guess probably I don't know which Doctor ends the way they began, to be honest. There aren't that many. But that's what I mean. They sort of start the way they sort of end the way they started, is what I'm trying to get at. Doctor Who plus expected continuity. Yeah, exactly. Is there anything in the lore that would invalidate the Watcher as the Valiard? Not that I'm aware of, so yeah, the Watcher could be the Valiard, I guess. I don't really have much else to add to that, but people just hear what they want to hear. She could be 14th. Yeah, well, the thing about this guy is that he said to me that, Ruth would be the 14th. Which, to be honest, if Chibnall staying is the best outcome, in my mind, I'll be honest, I don't really want Chibnall to stay beyond 2022. I'm not going to lie. Oh yeah, the 3rd Doctor falls over in both. Yes, that's a good point, Pacifist, thank you. I would have not caught that otherwise, so thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I don't want him to stay beyond 2022 personally, because that's when they're saying that Jodie will leave. I feel because at that point as well, it's not as if he would have been here for not very long. By that point, he would have been acting showrunner for 5 years, and we've got to think, when did, RTD realistically take over? 2004, and he was there till 2009. So, that would be, I guess New Year's 2010, so I guess you could say he was there for about 5-6 years. So that would be about in keeping with RTD's time on the show, I suppose. So I don't think that would be too unexpected to have him have 1 Doctor, because the only reason RTD had 2 Doctors was because Chris Eccleston pulled out early. I reckon there is a timeline out there where, Chris Eccleston was happy to carry on doing the show, and he stuck around until, the end of Series 4. I feel like the only reason we got Tennant was because of not because of Eccleston, but because Eccleston left. So yeah, 5 years is kind of the average. I know that Moffat obviously did 7, but he's like a massive outlier in terms of the fact that, um, that was like a gargantuan amount of time to be in the showrunner position. Kind of similar to how JNT was, but the only reason JNT was, as we discussed on a previous live stream, was because, he literally had no choice. And even then he wasn't showrunner, he was producer. But those words, like, a producer is kind of similar to a showrunner in the context of the 80s anyway, where he sort of shaped what he wanted the show to be. Do you think the BBC will announce anything in the Euro finals on the 11th of July? I was just speaking about this earlier, and I mentioned then that I think it'll be one of two things. Either we'll get confirmation that Jodie is leaving, and perhaps a tease of the 14th Doctor without revealing it necessarily, because we've got to think as well, if Jodie is leaving in 2022, then that would mean that it's 1 year until, we're in the year before she leaves, essentially. And I know that Moffat was announced to be departing in 2016, and I believe, was Capaldi early 2017? I'm not sure, but I know that with Tennant, he announced it at the NTAs, which were the year before his 2009 specials, so when he did depart. So I think it's not out the realm of possibility, I don't think, to expect an announcement that Jodie is departing next year, if that is true, which more and more it's reported, the more and more I think, yeah, there's something in it, especially with how right the Mirror have been before. I just can't see this being the one thing where they drop the ball. But it'll either be that, or it will be Series 13 teaser. That one's probably the more likely one of the two, to be honest. I do think we'll get something on the 11th, though. I could be completely wrong, but I do think we will get something on the 11th. Yeah, Stephen was trying to leave for a while as well, apparently. Yeah, you make a good point, Pacifist. So that's what I mean. The only time showrunners stay on for, huge amounts of time is when they're sort of not forced to, but told to, essentially. Well, I mean, JNT was basically forced to. But with Moffat, yeah, obviously he did, just think about leaving multiple times. I remember him saying, actually, he considered leaving at the end of Matt Smith's run in 2013, which, being honest, I kind of think would have been the best time for him to leave, because I feel like he'd have been seen as having, one of the most consistently popular runs of the show, and, obviously I know that these days the opinion of the Matt Smith era is quite mixed, but we've got to think, it managed to keep the momentum from the most popular point in the show's history at that time, and still, David Tennant, and it's managed to maintain it, and I think for all of his faults, he would have been heralded for that, but I think the problem was, because he stayed so long, he did sort of start to run out of steam and ideas, and I do think that leads to a more tainted look at his era, because I do think that it did slowly drop in quality, especially in the Capaldi era. Capaldi was great, but I do think that his quality did begin to decline steadily during the Capaldi era. Depends on which version of 6's Regeneration you believe. He was the result of 5's spectromics toxemia, and in Big Finish 6 died from radiation poisoning. Not a bump to the head, as the TV suggested. Yeah, I do quite like the Big Finish version of his Regeneration. I think I think Confession Dial did a really good version of 6's Regeneration using the Big Finish canon, and it's so much better. If you ever get the opportunity, watch that. I'm honestly surprised they didn't just get him to put that on the Blu-ray release, honestly, because I feel like that's the best version of his Regeneration, and it's not even official, but Stephen confirmed leave in late 2015, Chibnall confirmed new showrunner in early 2016, so Peter did leave in 2016 then, which sort of fits with what I was saying earlier about people leaving the year before. That makes total sense. So I think if Jodie is leaving next year, we logically get something this year. It would just make sense. What would you like to see in Jodie's Regeneration story? I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if David Tennant was involved, since he was good friends with both Chris and Jodie. I really hope that's not the case. Obviously, I watched your video on it earlier. I really hope that's not the case, because I do feel as though, as much as I'm not a big fan of Jodie's Doctor, she does deserve her own departure at the very least. And I do feel like one overshadowed 20 12 in Twice Upon a Time, and I really don't want that to happen again. So for me, I think what I would want for her finale, I think actually what I would want would probably be her by herself. I know I've said before that I'd like a Doctor-only story, but wouldn't it be cool for the Doctor who's been the most surrounded by companions in the modern era to go out alone? I think that would be something very different, and it's not something we've ever really seen. I know that Tennant technically didn't have a companion by the time we get to his regeneration. Apologies if you could hear dog barking as well. My dog is going berserk because she could hear another dog, and it's making her go wild. But I think that the best way to do that would be to have Jodie regenerate alone, because we've never really seen that before. Have her with no companion, have a story that just gets the better of her. I don't know how, but say it's the Daleks, but she's got to face them alone, and she does go out in one blaze of glory, I guess. That would be my ideal way of her leaving. I think it would be a nice juxtaposition between the way she started and the way she finished. Having her genuinely having to fight alone and battle to the end, and maybe right at the end some of her companions come along and save her, but obviously she still regenerates in the end. Something like that. Capaldi, while my favourite Doctor, had a bumpy run. Series 8 was super mixed, Series 9 was a thing, and Series 10 was his perfect season, where his story came full circle. While I don't entirely agree, I do agree with a lot of what you said there. I think for me, Series 10 I do find is a tad overrated these days, but I still think it is good. We've seen a recurring theme of Chibnall taking elements from RTD and Moffat stories, so maybe Doomsday rip-off with the Daleks fighting the Cybermasters or something. Yeah, I could see that happening. I could very much see a Dalek versus Cybermaster ordeal, especially considering, obviously I've said this before, but at the end of Time's Children, it's very heavily implied that they escaped. So yeah, I could very easily see something like that happening. I don't think Tennant should return till the 60th, but I just have a gut feeling the BBC might push it for it, especially if they aren't planning for anything for the 60th. Actually, speaking of BBC pressure, you've made me remember something that I thought of earlier that I thought I'd point out. By the way, follow me on Twitter if you don't already. It's where you keep up to date with all my latest thoughts. Whether they be good or bad, they're mostly bad. I'm going to be honest, they're mostly really terrible. But occasionally I'll tweet a good thing once in a while. Where was it? I think I might have gone past it now. Something about the next Doctor. Here we go. So it was Oliver Bennett who said, even though I don't really want it to happen, I'm fairly certain the next Doctor is going to be a man, even if that's not what Chibnall wants to do. And I honestly think he's got a point. I honestly think that he's got a point. I may have to try and sort the dog out, because it's she just will not stop. Hang on a minute. Hang on. I'll be right back. Okay, she's having some water. Sorry for the brief pause there. I just want to see if I can get the dog to be a little bit quieter, but there we go. I've sorted it now. And I was never seen alive again. Yep, that was my last canonical appearance on screen. I love how there's 75 people just watching a black screen. That's quite funny to me. Where do you get these leaks from, Tom? My bumhole. No. I just sort of find them. It's just a thing that happens. Sometimes I get sent them. Other times, I just find them. It's whatever, I guess. So someone was saying that they could try and basically get... Wait, no, that's not the one I wanted. That's what I wanted. That they could try and get a male Doctor even if that's not what Chibnall wants. because in the BBC's eyes, it'll be the way that they fix it or whatever. And I honestly partially think that they've got a point. Like, with the way that they've sort of just refused to acknowledge that Whittaker exists, I wouldn't be surprised at all if it just turned out that, I would not be at all surprised if it turned out, what was I trying to say? I would not be at all surprised if they decide to make the Doctor a male again, because they'll see that as the issue. Even though I don't think that's really the issue, because Joe Martin proved that you can have a really good female Doctor, I feel. I thought New Who was every other Doctor dies or without a companion. 9/11 had a companion. 10 and 12 had no companion. Yeah, but, like, I guess with, 12, he was accompanied by the First Doctor for most of that story, as well as the Brigadier's uncle or whatever. I just mean, imagine a Doctor regenerating or having a regeneration story with no one to help her at all. That's what I want. A story with no one to help. All hope is lost, like, type thing. That's what I want. But I don't think they'll do that. But I'd like that. But I think I'm going to end the stream there. Apologies for, the brief pause. It's just very, very loud when the dog starts going, and I cannot stop it. Because dogs, I think, apparently, they can bark seemingly forever if they want to. But I'll just read the last bits of chat. If they did a plot on the non-destroyed Gallifrey, I'd hope there'd be a new episode would be better than the Deadly Assassin and the Invasion of Time. Oh god, the Invasion of Time is terrible. Honestly, one of the worst Doctor Who stories ever, in my opinion. Boring and awful stories, the pair of them. I agree. I hope New Who doesn't enter a cycle of Gallifrey being saved and destroyed over and over. Yeah, that's true. I do kind of agree. They need to just make up their mind one way or the other and stick to that. I completely agree with you. But yeah, I'm going to end it there. Thank you all for watching. See you later. Goodbye.